Good morning, friends. It's Bob again with another daily Devo, and this morning I want to talk to you about divine orchestration. Divine orchestration. Now, when we're looking at the biblical witness, the Bible and all the stories in the Bible, we see over and over and over again that even though all kinds of crazy and outside the box things are happening, that God is still working, that God is making good on his promises, that God is doing some things, that he is using the terrible things that go on this earth to somehow be able to make things come back into sync with who he is and what he desires. Now, that doesn't mean, and you've heard me say this before, that God is orchestrating all of this evil. He's not, but he is actually making good on his promises and on his character in the midst of a bunch of crazy outside the box things happening. Well, this is one of the things that was very difficult for the people of Jesus's day, is that Jesus is doing all these outside the box things, and they're not seeing that this is all part of God's actual plan, that God's purpose of going forward. And so, they mistake actually things that the Father is doing for things that the evil one is doing. And Jesus actually cautions them and saying, you don't want to be speaking this blasphemy against the Holy Spirit. This is dangerous stuff. You don't want to be calling stuff that's actually God something that's of the devil. Well, in that whole thing, I've been in the book of Acts in my own personal devotional time, and I, Luke is over and over. He's the author of Acts. That I see him over and over again, just trying to help people understand that, hey, God, there are things that are outside the box that are going on right now, and God is still working in this thing, and that God is doing something unique in this, and we don't want to miss it. And what I have found too is that when I trust in the Lord's orchestration and his overall superintending to things as all kinds of outside the box things are going on, that I find that my heart and my mind can go to rest instead of be all frenetic and worried and anxious and all those things, because worry and anxiety frequently follow this whole idea that somehow God has lost control of his universe and that things are happening that are not, God is not going to make good on. So the story that I was in this morning is the story of the gospel actually going from Jews to non-Jews or Gentiles, and the God and this is just something that the Jewish people had a really hard time with, because Gentiles just are not God's people, and we're God's people. And how could that be that the gospel could go to Gentiles? They just have to become like us. And the Jesus and Paul and everyone else is basically saying, no, they don't have to become like you to become God's people. Really important in this whole thing. So in all of this, you find that the gospel has gone outside of Jerusalem to Lydda, which is a town to the northwest of Jerusalem, and then has gone to Joppa. And now from there, God is orchestrating something with a Roman centurion called Cornelius. And Cornelius is a godly man. This is a great step for the Jewish people to begin to understand that God is actually accepting Gentiles into the clan, into the tribe, into the family. And so what ends up happening is Cornelius is this Roman centurion who actually has a love for the Jewish people and is a devout man and actually cares about people, and that he's been praying, and God shows up when he's praying and speaks to him and actually terrifies him. It's like, what? And it says that, hey, there's this guy named Peter. I want you to go down, this guy named Simon Peter. I want you to go down and fetch him, because and that's the angel's kind of message in the whole thing. So Cornelius sends somebody to fetch Peter. Peter's, at the same time, he's in Joppa, just not a long way away, but a ways away. And Peter's is praying before lunch, and he falls into a trance, and he sees this sheet with all kinds of animals in it, reptiles and things like that Jewish people just cannot eat. And so, the voice comes from heaven, with Peter seeing this vision, rise and eat. And Peter's like, I don't eat any of that unclean stuff. And the message is, what God has called unclean, what God has made clean, you don't treat as unclean anymore. And what? And this happens 3 times. Peter just, needs to actually get some of these things 3 times, for him to actually get it. I understand Peter in this sense, because sometimes I'm a little slow on the uptake. So Peter actually is being conscripted by God to come and bring the Gentiles the gospel, and this is something that's really outside the box. This is not anything that's that anybody thought was right or possible. So, what's being said in the story, it's really curious to watch, to read the gospel, to read the book of Acts in chapter 10, because you see that God is orchestrating something that's quite outside the box. And so I want to kind of draw some of the strings of this thing together and to encourage you today. Firstly, that when all kinds of hell is breaking loose, when all kinds of things are going on in our lives that we don't understand, God is working. God is working. God is doing something good. Even though there might be all kinds of terrible things that are going on in our lives, God is working something good. The cross of Christ is the ultimate example of this, that this is the complete unleashing of human and demonic evil. And how could anything good come from it? Boom, 3 days later, resurrection, and then ascension. Now Jesus is reigning. Now everything in the entire universe has changed because of what happened and what God did through that, even though God was not the one who was orchestrating the evil. God is orchestrating something good, even though evil looks like it's having its way. Well, so important word, God is working. God is working. God is working in ways that you never thought he would be working, that God is working. Secondly, that he's doing, even though stuff is happening quite outside the box, outside of any expectation, he is still working. Thirdly, that God is so frequently calling us to adjust our mindset to be able to work with him in the midst of all these situations that are not actually seeming to conform with what our expectations of how things should be. And fourthly, and especially from Acts chapter 10, I think the really important message in this one is that one of the things that we can always count on God doing is drawing people to himself. People that we never thought he should draw to himself, he draws these people to himself. Divine orchestration. Divine orchestration causes us to be able to go, okay, it's not all up to me. That you are working something, Lord, something good, something beautiful in the midst of all this chaos, all this evil, and I can trust you. I can trust you. You're working something good in the midst of all this evil and all of this chaos, and I can trust you, and I can rest in you. That's the word I believe that God has for us today. We'll investigate this some more going forward, but thanks so much for joining me today. I'm praying for you. I love you. God bless you.